recording. It has like that eternal circle up there. Oh, there we go. Awesome. Okay, so we're now recording. And then for those who have not gotten the Nearpod link, I just posted that in the chat there. You can jump on. We got about over half the people there on Nearpod so far, so that's great. All right, so welcome. I'm going to share my screen here in just a second here, but as I do that, I'll introduce myself. My name is Mr. Hancock. I will be your instructor for this class. This class is Introduction to criminal justice. So we're going to be going over a lot of just law enforcement stuff, right? There's a different criminal justice is a really interesting thing, I think, to me, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it as we kind of go through there. What I'm going to do real quick is I'm just going to jump over to the class. So as you go onto your OLS, a couple things that I do a lot is I use the classroom announcements. So I will be posting the recording right to the classroom announcements. So anybody that misses it, they can always jump in and catch it. Also, just I'm going to throw in here our content real quick that we're going to be going over. This is also what we call a CTE class, so Career and Technical Education. So we do have a little thing about career. If criminal justice or law enforcement is an area of expertise you'd like to possibly go into, I'm actually going to be teaching another class this next block that's going to be called Criminal Law, which we're going to be one of our units in this thing is criminal law, but it goes a lot more into detail about, we're probably going to go into some case studies, you know, all those shows that you watch on TV, the true crimes, all that kind of stuff. We'll be kind of going deeper into the law. And then if you do want to continue on with that even more, we can also do like an internship slash kind of work study thing where we can get you into kind of a field like that. Okay. So that's something we're trying to get here into that. You've been in almost all my classes. Well, good. All right. So this is how it goes. We have 6 units in here. The first unit is going to be this week. We're going to be going over Introduction to Criminal Justice. So just a brief overview of the criminal justice system, that kind of stuff. Next week, we're going to jump into crime and then criminal law, then police components, then the judicial system. Particularly, we're going to be talking about the juvenile justice system because I think that may interest you guys a little bit because that's kind of your age, what would happen as you go into there. And then the last one is corrections, and then you'll have a little thing you got to do with career and criminal justice. Also, we have, I don't know if they've came out with it yet, but there's something called a skills cert test. I'm not sure if the state just came out with it yet. I'm still working on it to see if they did. But if there is, you can get a nice little certificate at the very end if you pass the test that will just basically say that that you have basically understand criminal justice and that kind of stuff, and that will kind of help you further in career path kind of things. Okay. So I don't know if the state has came out with that yet. I know they've come out with it other classes, but we'll just kind of see there. I'll keep you guys updated on there, but it'll be going over all the stuff that I kind of go over in class. You want that? Awesome. Yeah, that'd be good to have. But as I said, I'll keep you updated. If anything else, right, you can continue on with this law enforcement pathway, and you could take criminal law next, and then also, do like an internship thing in there. All right. So today what we're going to do, we're going to be going over like an introduction and kind of a history of law enforcement and how that rolls. Just so you know, this class will be recorded. Yeah, so if you want to stay after Davian, we can talk about it. Okay. All right, here's the class expectations real quick. Basically, I want you to follow along with the Nearpod lesson as we go through it. If you just use the chat tool respectfully and appropriately. So let's try to stay on topic, that kind of stuff. And then also respond to questions and instructions the first time. So as we have different activities, mostly like in the Nearpod and stuff, that you're going to be just following along there. Okay, here's a little bit about me real quick. Here's my family. So you can already see a picture of me since I'm on the camera here. But this is my family. So this is my wife, Christy. We've been married for about 13 years. And we have 3 kids, Brooklyn, who's 9, Kason, who's 6, and Kaylor, who is 4. And as you can see, my boys are a bunch of trouble as they like climbing trees and breaking bones and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so what we're going to be doing, the objective of this class, this lesson today, okay, is given a quiz in the OLS. So that's what basically your exit ticket's going to be. Your /assignment for this week is you're going to accurately answer multiple choice questions about the role of and history of law enforcement throughout time with 80% accuracy across one trial. So how you do this at the very end, you go into the unit 1 here, and then we have the quiz right here. Okay. All right. I would be interested, what did you think this class was going to be about, the introduction to criminal justice? Do we do interactive lessons, just like on the Nearpods and stuff like that? The quiz is due next Wednesday, so you have plenty of time to do it. So we have that. We're going to be looking at different, like a little bit of case studies, a little bit of famous criminal acts, I guess, and how the police responded. We're going to talk about that. There's going to be kind of a lot of stuff. There's a little bit of the dilemma and that stuff. Miss Keller does not teach this anymore now. All right. Okay. So some policing activities that you probably have seen before. Okay. Patrol. Okay. As the police are going out patrolling. Traffic enforcement. Okay. We got our Utah Highway Patrol. The K9 units. SWAT, gang units, undercover. I had a brother-in-law that actually worked undercover, like in like the gang unit kind of thing. So he had some very interesting stories to share with me. Crime prevention, corrections, dispatch, school resource officers, detectives, forensic, and the list goes on and on. So you have probably at some point in time have came into contact with law enforcement. It could have been bad or it could have been a good experience. It just kind of depends, right? There's been a proactive kind of reach out that law enforcement, what they've done is they've been trying to reach out to have good experiences rather than everything that happens is negative, okay? So you also see the glamorization or not so glamorization of law enforcement. You have different shows like CSI. Hollywood has made it so there's they talk about bad cops, right? There's all this I guess corruption in the police force. They've really kind of cracked down on a lot of that. There are some ethical issues that do come up, right? And we probably will talk about some of those in our classes and stuff like that, okay? But know that a lot of stuff that you see on TV that that's fiction and fake is not what it's really like. Okay. It is a lot different. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, I am hoping this will play for you. You can play it on your end if you'd like. Unfortunately, it wouldn't let me download the video for it, but this kind of gives us a brief overview of basically what law enforcement was like before it is what we see it is today. If that makes sense, okay? So we're going to play this video and watch it, and then I'm going to ask you a discussion question we'll do on the Nearpod. Okay, can you guys hear that at all? I'm hoping. No? Great. Okay, hold on real quick. I'm going to stop sharing and then see if I can do it again. Oh, share audio. There we go. You can play it on your own slide if you want. Okay, so let me know if you can hear it now.
Over the country for 9 days now, responding to these demonstrations and these protests nationwide. But did you know there was a time when we as a country, America, did not have an organized police force anywhere in the entire country? So let's go beyond the headline this morning and take a look at the history of the police force in America.
The law enforcement system we have today wasn't shaped until the mid-1950s. Back in colonial times, there were no police officers. Communities would simply hire someone to act as night watch. It wasn't very effective. Most of the time, the watchman would sleep through his shift or get drunk. The first time we saw an organized law enforcement system was just before the Civil War. Cities set up what they called a slave patrol, a group to prevent slave revolts and hunt down runaway slaves. After the war, these groups switched more to enforcing segregation. And as time went on, police forces focused mostly on protecting businesses in big cities from union organizers and crime rings. The problem? Police forces were controlled by local politicians. In 1929, President Hoover created the Wickersham Commission to look at how effective law enforcement was nationwide. The results of that commission led to the creation of independent police precincts that were separate from political parties and are more similar to what we have today.
All right. Over the last year, CBS News has surveyed more than 150 police departments across the country. At least 69% of departments that were surveyed said they do have racial bias training, including the Minneapolis Police Department. They said they've been teaching bias training since 2015 and de-escalation training since before 2005.
All right. So that kind of gave us a little overview there. Okay. Wait, so you're telling me that police... Yeah. So there is some more history in it. But a lot of police force was created to protect the rich, right? So they created that to protect big companies and stuff like that. It is, we'll kind of go over that a little bit like that. But luckily, our evolution has come to protect and talking about what we'll talk about, the Bill of Rights, right? That helps protect us, that kind of the legal issues there. So, okay, I'm going to ask you a question here. What interaction have you had with law enforcement so far? Okay. And maybe say, was it good? Is it bad? What interaction have you had with law enforcement? None. Okay. Okay, I got pulled over on your four-wheeler on the street, getting pulled over. Got pulled over because she wasn't registered. Basically none, getting pulled over. Okay, so school resource officers, okay? Wait, my school's cop got beaten. Oh my gosh, yeah. It is scary. Like there is a lot of danger that kind of goes with the profession. Pulled over, getting pulled over, raids in hometown. Wow, okay. Haven't had any interaction. DARE. Yep, DARE counts, right? That's an outreach program they've kind of done to kind of help. If you kind of see a lot of the experiences have been somewhat bad, right? Or somewhat that may be a traumatic experience that you can think of. Okay, I'm going to copy. Okay. Your dad was your brother's SWAT. Okay. Really bad car accident, wouldn't save your life. Okay. He pulled me out of the car. Wow. That's scary. Hopefully you're all right. I don't have anything else from it. Sister called the cops on accident. Yeah. Getting pulled over. My sister had a hit and run. Yeah. Oh, geez. Yeah. And then sometimes that, as I said, when the police officers show up, sometimes it's not the best experience, right? And we're kind of reluctant to kind of talk to there. Okay. None because it's cop show. Okay. To talk to the police a few times with my parents. Oh, man. Yeah. So there is some good. My brother's got stolen. Okay. You do canine work. Okay. So you kind of work with the canines. That's interesting. Oh my gosh. Yeah. There was a dead body by your elementary school and they had to investigate. Yeah. Oh, geez. Yeah, some of the experiences we have are kind of crazy. Call them after you were robbed. Wow. Asking about missing kids in school. Okay. Yeah, I mean, some of the experiences we have with law enforcement aren't the best, right? But hopefully we can see that we're trying to make things, they're hopefully trying to make things a better place. Okay. This guy in August. Oh, geez. Yeah, that is pretty crazy. Okay. So as you can see, we all have different kind of experience, right? But what they're trying to do is bring about maybe what we call defined as justice, right? And we all have kind of a different standard for what justice is, right? We can all think of, in our society today, we think of certain things as right and wrong. Okay. For example, we think murder or hurting somebody else is wrong. Okay. And so we need some of that stuff to be upheld, and there should be some types of standard of fairness which should be judged. And that's where kind of the legal system and the law have come into play. Somebody that enforces that kind of right. Okay. Okay. So which comes first, laws or morality? Okay. So a people grow, they develop their feelings and certain actions that are right and wrong. And we keep evolving that too, right? These feelings are created by parents, school, religion, country, friends, and others. These ideas are about duties and ethics. We refer to them as morality, although many refer to these feelings as like a conscience, okay? So when we have something we all inherently just kind of feel like, as I said, like killing somebody's probably wrong, right? I think we can all hopefully agree with that. So what do we do if somebody did do that? Okay. But who basically says what's right and wrong? Put that in the chat real quick. Who do you think makes what's right and wrong? The people, okay? But do the people really make rich people? Okay, good. Popular opinion. Okay, that's a good thing. The majority, okay. People with power, okay, I would definitely agree. People in the higher power, okay. Government sometimes, right? It ain't the minority. No. So I guess people who do have are the ones that have political power, as we'd say, are the ones that create the laws. And sometimes they backfire. For example, we've kind of seen that the United States, we incarcerate, which basically means put in jail or prison, more people than any other country in the world, right? So is that a problem, right? Okay, we kind of think of here of certain kind of maybe substances that people use, and we incarcerate people for that, right? So here's some kind of things to kind of think about, right? Yeah, okay, it depends on the situation, I think, as well, that everything's kind of difficult there.
I'd be curious if we had similar laws to a different country, but incarcerated more people than the other country, would just because the people in America are doing those things more, or is it the laws are stricter?
I think that's a very good question there. I think it does come down to because America has its own culture, right? I mean, you can't really go to some other country and say America has, or that country has the same culture as America. Probably our closest relative culture would probably be, just because of proximity, would probably be Canada. But they have different laws that they've kind of created, right? They have their own culture there. Okay, and let's remember, like our at the very beginning, how we talked about like norms we set for the class that we're just going to be appropriate on the chat. So please, please do that. Some of the stuff I know we talk about is a little bit controversial and that kind of stuff, but I think it's something that we all kind of need to talk about. But going back to your point, that I think the morality that we've had, so we grew up with a morality of a Christian kind of based country, and we've kind of taken that to that we need to legislate that as well, right? So I don't know if there's any other country we can kind of compare it to. So I don't know if that really answered your question. But if we did have something like to compare it against, that would be interesting to see if it would be there or not. Okay. All right. So I'm going to ask you the question on the Nearpod here. Okay. Is it feasible to enforce all laws all the time? Okay. All right. All good laws. Okay. Who is the person that decides if it's a good law or not to enforce? Yes and no. Probably not. Okay. It's an interesting question, right? Just think about how constantly enforced speeding is. Okay. No, it's too tough. Okay. I mean, we have probably thousands upon thousands of laws, and the person who enforces the law, right, is the one who gets to make the discretion of whether what we can do, or like whoever's like in the executive power, right? So you have like the executive branch, right? So right now in power is President Joe Biden. In Utah, you have Governor Cox, right? They're the ones that kind of set their precedents. They can say, I'm going to enforce this law and I'm not going to enforce that law, right? Yeah, we'd all be, I love that comment right there. We would all be arrested for something if everything was enforced. I would definitely agree, right? We all cannot follow all these things. So it's kind of interesting. So you kind of see the paradox here of what we're kind of going in when we talk about law enforcement, right? Because it's so subjective to what your point of view is. Okay, so here's a couple things, okay? So why aren't they enforced? There's a lack of public consensus if the law should even be enforced or not. You know, for example, take the subject of marijuana, okay? For a long time, marijuana was enforced. Now a lot of people are making it legal. Places are making it legal. And it's, you know, what do you do, right? We'd have widespread violation, right? We'd incarcerate more people. We have limited manpower. We can't just, anybody who ever did it, right? We can't really do that, okay? Low priority. So we're going to really look at the higher kind of, we're going to be talking about the different laws when we come to criminal law in a little bit, but we're going to be talking about the ones we kind of do enforce, right? Such as manslaughter, murder, aggravated assault, and robbery, okay? Those are some of the big ones that we look at doing. And some of the other ones, you know, like jaywalking or something like that, we may not do so much. Here's just some laws that are not widely reinforced, okay? Polygamy, okay? That's an interesting one. Jaywalking, curfew laws, right? But at some points in time, they will enforce them, right? Depending on where you're at. Some traffic laws they don't look at. Speeding, improper turns, vehicle conditions, okay? Sometimes they don't do that. Truancy laws for you that don't like to attend school, right? That's a law in the book that you're supposed to go to school. Okay. Who gets to decide whether or not they're not to enforce the laws? I don't know what my A and B is. Let me flip student mode real quick. Okay, do judges get to do it? Do prosecutors? Or, so a prosecutor would be like an attorney or a lawyer or police. Okay. Who gets to decide? And hopefully a lot of you put like incorrect answers. Okay. So the police are the ones that get to decide at that point in time, right? Which is interesting. It puts a lot on their shoulders to kind of see there. So let's talk real quick briefly about the history of law enforcement, okay? The history of law enforcement, it started with actually the Code of Hammurabi, okay? Which is a long, long time ago. As you can see, this was the code that they written down in Babylonia. It just basically laws that they were set in stone. It started 2000 BC, and it was enforced by what they call messengers. So then that adapted to more civilized societies. You think about the Greek word police, which means basically city or state. And so you got basically there. The history of law enforcement, 1200 BC, the Syrian Empire, they started a court system, okay, to basically convict those. 700 BC, Egypt, they had like Marines or customs police. 400 BC, they had the Persian emperor, police to protect roads or postal systems. Then you had the Roman Empire. They were the first non-military police to enforce the city. A lot of things happened by military force, right? But now they had non-military force to protect citizens. These guys were known as vigils. They carried wooden clubs or short swords. And then you had a lot of traditions that started over in England, right? And so they called what they call the watch and ward system. It's a law enforcement by citizens, and they still have some things like that. today, right, like volunteers that will police areas and stuff like that. Sir Robert Peel was one of the big ones that was an influencer. They started what they call the Magna Carta. Now, the Magna Carta is what our founding fathers, the United States, took and to make the Declaration of Independence and also our the Bill of Rights. Okay, so the Magna Carta was signed and it reduced the king's power. So people had individual rights. Okay, but who upholds those rights? Okay, so that is some things that need to kind of be discussed. Okay, so in England, they had what the watch and the ward system. They were able to patrol functioning in the communities. Any adult male from 15 to 60 could be a part of it. The watch was the night. The ward was the day patrol. And now we jump over to policing of America. Okay. One thing that America has always been kind of known for is distrust in central authority. And we kind of see that even today, like in our policing system today, and skepticism about the government. But we do elect a lot of areas, like in Utah, you elect the sheriff, the county sheriff, and you're able to elect those and take them out. So there is some type of say in what happens there. They started doing paid patrol. They started doing watchmen and civilians rather than military police. Yeah, sure. I can. I can make that as a self-pace for you right now, so you can actually go through some of the slides and take notes if you'd like. As we're starting more with policing in America in the 1930s, we had reform influences in the American police. So in 1844, so big cities were now being able to start to do their own enforcement. So like New York City basically appointed their first chief. In 1853, they started having formal training. They started wearing uniforms. And a lot of it was due to like the mobs and the riots that were happening back at that time. Some other significant things that happened, probably familiar with the Texas Rangers, right? They were started up. They were the first state police agency. We also created what's called the U.S. Federal Marshals. They were the first federal agency. We also did the Bureau of Investigation was created. So what we've known later today is the FBI. Yeah, your quiz will be due by Wednesday of next week. We also have three basic functions of law enforcement, okay? Combating criminal violations, enforcing laws, and then providing miscellaneous services, okay? So some other things that come within this field, jails, ambulances, EMT, firefighters, all that kind of stuff are part of our kind of public service law enforcement community. Okay, so here's a couple of statistics about Utah as we kind of look more on a local level. As of January 1st, 2008, approximately there were about almost 5,000 sworn police officers. Now, the statistics that we have that we're working off are kind of old, but it's pretty good. Of all police departments nationally, 11 or about 12% were female. So there are a lot of, it's a very male-dominated field, right? So we'd love to have more women that would be willing to join the public service area. If Sheriff's Department, there is about 14% female. And then nationally, there's 2.5 officers per 1,000 citizens. In Utah, there's 1.8. So we're actually a little bit lower about how many people are per officer. So what we talked about is we have rights as individuals that we're able to do that. And that comes through mostly through laws, but it's all based around the Bill of Rights. So to end everything off today, we're going to go over some of the main amendments here that protect us. Okay. So the first one is Amendment 1. It's basically that we can petition government for grievances. Okay. That we have the freedom of speech, the freedom of press, the freedom to peaceably assemble. Okay. So to be able to go out and state what we believe and what we think, right? And we shouldn't be able to have that taken from us. Okay. And that's something that the government and law enforcement should protect. Another big one, and this is very even debatable throughout the country, is the right to bear arms. Okay. The right to hold, to be able to have firearms. Okay, the Fourth Amendment is pretty big. It's against unreasonable searches and seizure. Okay, so basically, I cannot have a police officer come up to me and say, "Show me your phone. I'm going to search your car." Right? They have to have probable cause, and they have to have certain things in there. Okay. Now, in certain areas, you waive your rights to that, but that's something that we should have. So what are you saying, George? You said they can? They cannot do it unless they have probable cause. Yeah, so somebody said like in school. So I still don't think they can actually do it in school, like search your backpack and stuff, but they do it anyways. So I'm just saying, I'm a virtual school, so I can kind of say that. I'm not going to be checking your stuff. No worries. Okay. All right. Number 5 is kind of interesting. So you cannot basically be tried for the same crime twice. So if you've been tried for it already, you can't be done that again. And then also that you cannot, double jeopardy. And you have to have due process, right? You have the right to be able to go through a trial and not be deprived of life, liberty, and, property, the pursuit of happiness, okay? That you cannot incriminate yourself either, right? So there are certain things that we have to do. Now, there's ways around them. There's ways that attorneys try to find their ways around them, but these basic rights should be given to you. Another one's the Sixth Amendment, okay? The right to a speedy trial, okay? To be informed about what you're being accused about, okay? To be able to confront your witnesses. Like somebody just can't go and basically say something like that, okay? Okay, another big one is the Eighth Amendment. You shouldn't have cruel and unusual punishment, okay? So they shouldn't be torturing you or something like that. I mean, it's kind of a human right we've kind of talked about, okay? All right, so there's a lot on this subject, I know. And I had to kind of race through it a little bit because there's so much. But this is kind of what the class will be like. We're going to be talking about this. You're going to have an assignment at the very end where you kind of study any kind of career field in law enforcement. I mean, it could be fire department, it could be paramedics, it could be FBI, it could be all kinds of stuff, okay? Or am I going to post that in your class plan? Yeah, so what's going to happen is we're just going to go week by week. And so I'll post everything week by week. So right now, all I have up is the Unit 1 stuff. Here, I'm going to be posting my video. I'll also be posting some other things here that will be of helpful use. And then this quiz is due by Wednesday of next week. Okay. So just every week, just come on. We'll have a class on Thursday where we'll discuss everything. And then we'll have a quiz, sometimes a case study, an assignment, and then we go from there. Yeah, so this Nearpod lesson, there will be a self-paced one that you can go through on there. Okay. All right. Okay, well, I'll stick around and ask you answer any questions that you guys might have. I'm going to stop the recording.